Auburn Tigers. Today we talk War Eagle and we talk about the defense and what they have coming up this year. I'm not gonna lie to y'all, a lot of changes. Are the changes good enough for them to be a contender maybe this year in the SEC? Let's talk about it. What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and hype up the video. Appreciate all my Auburn fans for tapping in with me. Got to keep y'all boys supplied, man. So appreciate y'all tapping into the channel, man. But when we talk about the Auburn Tigers, we discuss the defense, right? And defensively, it's a team that's going to look vastly different, right? They lost a lot of players from last season, from a year ago on the defensive line, secondary. This is going to be a whole new look team. And they retained their defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin, right? Now, we know last year, Auburn's defense was actually pretty good when you look at from top to bottom, some of the players they had, the Jalen Crawfords, the different players that played linebacker for them, and they were damn good. Like they were in a lot of games. Oklahoma, right? Like all they needed was their offense to put one more drive together, right? Make one more play, right? And unfortunately, they can always get that. And why they struggle. But some of these games, they were nip and tuck. It was 10-10 going into the fourth quarter, last 2 minutes of the game, right? So your defense did its job. But this year it's going to look different. New head coach and Alex Golis, but you keep the defensive coordinator. But the biggest thing is, how do you replace this defensive line, right? As you guys can see right here from Auburn Tigers on SI, did a great job. They're replacing 6 guys on the defensive front. Top 6 tacklers at the position is all departing for the NFL draft this past year, right? The only returning tackler is Dallas Walker, the fourth, right? Was granted an extra year of eligibility. This is Dallas Walker, big boy, right? They're also going to have Malik Autry. He was a former 5-star prospect, played in 9 games at Auburn in 2025, right? So they're expecting Autry to have a big step forward this upcoming year for the Auburn Tigers, right? LSU transfer Walker Mathis as well. Junior is going to be a big time cause for obviously the Auburn Tigers, and also added depth with App State's St. Ferrier and Arkansas State's Cody Sigley to provide additional depth on the roster, right? Now, the big thing is edge rusher. How good will it be, right? Because key starters Keldrick Folk and obviously Kieran Crawford both left for NFL. So how do you replace that for them, right? They also lost Marius Williams, who ended up, I think, getting hurt. Obviously transferred to Georgia, but ended up getting hurt. Won't play a lot, I think, this year for the Bulldogs. But how do you replace him, right? Now you look at Deshaun Walmack coming over from Ole Miss, right? Nate Johnson coming over from Mizzou, right? All very talented players. When we look at former 5-star status, making all Sun Belt. Can they come in and make a big difference? The name to me for Auburn that I think will step up big this year on the edge rusher is Jarrett Smith. I think very talented, right? Last year was fourth on the team with sacks. This guy, Jarrett Smith, has a chance to potentially be one of those guys, right? Like Deshaun Walmack, I like Nate Johnson, but I feel like nobody can contend with what Jarrett Smith is going to do this upcoming year for them, right? He's going to be a player that's going to be very good, is going to make a lot of different plays, and be a real big difference maker, this upcoming season for the Auburn Tigers. Now, the position I feel very comfortable with when it comes to Auburn is the linebacker position, right? So for the Tigers, the reason I feel comfortable with the linebacker position because all of the athletes and players that they have there when we look at the Auburn Tigers linebacker room, right? And we look at guys like Xavier Atkins as a guy that's going to be special this upcoming year, right? Led them in obviously tackles and tackles for loss. He's going to be good. You have Elijah Melendez, right? He returns, earned all SEC freshman honors, right? He's going to be pretty good this upcoming year as well for the Auburn Tigers. And then you also look at Damarcus Riddick, right? Highly talented, physical interior linebacker that's going to have something to say this year. You look at those three and you feel pretty good about the linebacker room in terms of depth, physicality, setting the tone, making it do what it do this year for the Tigers. So those three alone, as you can see in this article, are going to be players to watch this upcoming year. And I think it's going to have a major, major impact. And what makes Melendez special is he's a guy, played all 12 games last year, just freakishly athletic, right? A guy that flows sideline to sideline, makes plays, can make picks, make interceptions, and just has great instincts and a knack for the football, right? Just a difference level linebacker that does a whole bunch of different things. And the crazy part is, true freshman, he didn't start last year, but he found himself on the field, right? And he's a guy right here that's pictured that's going to have a big time impact moving forward. Now, what's interesting is the young guy coming up under him, right? Bryce Dees. Can he be a guy that has a similar role this upcoming season for Auburn? Can he have a Melendez impact in the first year, right? Because it's not always about starts. Sometimes you want to make sure the wear and tear on your body is good. Sometimes you want to make sure you're good to go. But for Melendez, right, this Bryce Dees could be a guy that comes in, rotates in certain things, and can allow him to stay fresh throughout the game. So I feel like of everything, defensive line is going to be a big question mark. Edge rusher, who I believe Jared Smith should be the guy, is going to be a question mark. But linebacker, there is no question marks when it comes to this team, to this squad, to the Auburn Tigers. They should be able to perform at a very high level, in my humble opinion. So I think they're going to be very good when it comes to it. And I think defensively, linebacker will be not a problem. The other question mark for me is going to be secondary, right? So they did return a little bit of obviously production, right? And they brought back in guys like, what I'm saying, safety Caleb Harris. He will be a big time guy for them. Should be able to have obviously a big time impact this upcoming season. I like what he can do, what I'm saying, for them. But the big question mark is Anquan Fegans. Can he be a guy for them? Coming out of high school, heavily recruited, 4-star prospect. He was a guy who was like, okay, he has a potential chance to be great, right? And we already seen what true freshman Eric Winters did, right? He was one of the highest graded freshmen on Pro Football Focus (PFF). Besides Bryce Fitzgerald, he was right in that. You know what I'm saying? So being able to have Eric Winters, Caleb Harris, and then you bring in Anquan Fegans, you feel pretty good about this group from overall standpoint, right? And then they added depth, adding Fred Gaskin from USF. So this is a defense that should be much better, right? In my humble opinion, right? When you look at that position, right? Now you got to replace your two starting corners, right? And Jay Crawford, who left, and Kenyon Lee, who's at Tennessee now, right? But you brought in obviously Andre Jordan, right? And a player who's really underrated, you know what I'm saying? And you also brought in Shamar Arnaud, who's pretty good, and then Gavin Jenkins, right? So the biggest questions to me for Auburn, when I look at the defense from top to bottom, I look at cornerback, I look at edge rusher, and those are the positions I feel like I'm kind of iffy on for Auburn in defensive line. Linebacker, you're loaded, right? Xavier Atkins, Damarcus Riddick, Elijah Melendez. You're good. Safety, Anquan Fegans, right? Good depth piece for you, right? Caleb Harris is obviously going to be there. And then the foe, Eric Winters. Really good secondary, to be honest with you. Cornerback, you're bringing in some new guys into the fold, right? Shamar Arnaud, right? Several guys is going to have to replace Kenyon Lee and Jalen Crawford, right? So cornerback, I'm a little iffy on. Are those guys going to be ready to perform and play at a high level for Auburn this upcoming season? I don't know, right? So how good can the defense be? I don't think this has to be a top 10 defense. I don't think this has to be a top 20 defense. I think for Auburn, it's just making plays, have it great, creating tackles for loss, right? Creating negative plays, interceptions, right? They need their offense to be better. They need Byron Brown to perform this year. They need the wide receivers to take off this year. Auburn to me has most of the defensive pieces in place. The biggest thing will be cohesion, and then the defensive line creating pressure, defensive line creating havoc. Malik Autry and those big boys in there being able to create havoc in the interior, having a better run defense, right? But last year the defense was pretty good, which is why DJ Durkin kept his job, right? Defense was pretty good. Defense was not the problem for Auburn, right? It was the offense. So I would say defense wise, I would give it a B to B plus. I do have questions on cornerback position with some of the new guys that's coming into the fold over there. I do have some questions obviously about the edge rusher position. But outside of that, linebacker, safeties, some key important pieces on this team is going to help you out tenfold, right? But cornerback position, you know what I'm saying? Andre Jordan, right? You know what I'm saying? He's going to be one to watch. Gavin Jenkins will be one to watch, right? And obviously Rayshawn Placent will be one to watch. But outside of that, for this Auburn defense, you feel pretty good going into 2026. So it's gonna be interesting. Some guys are gonna have to grow up. Some guys are gonna have to get better. Some guys are gonna have to make it do what it do. But you feel pretty good about this unit in terms of linebackers and safeties, because you know these guys are going to full side on the sideline. They're going to make plays and interceptions. They're going to make the offense uncomfortable, and they're going to make it do what it do. But can the corners be good enough not to get burned on the outside, right? Can they be disciplined enough where they're not creating extra work for safeties, right? Can the linebackers help the defensive line as they figure it out, right? Can they flow into those gaps, right, and make those plays? But it's a talented group, to say the least. And you bring back a coordinator that has familiarity with some of these guys. Yes, it's some new faces, but the camaraderie is there. The talent is there. Now you just need the production to be from those two spots. So to me, I think this Auburn defense should be pretty good in 2026. We'll see if it can be better in 2025 edition. 2026, it should be pretty good. So I give it a B to B plus. So my thoughts on the Auburn defense should be good, should be competitive this year. It should be to have them in games. That's all you need. You just need your offense to score more than 17 points a game, right? You need your offense to hit around the 20 range, right? Because it might be some growing pains for this defense. If it is, you need your offense to pick up the slack. It's just that simple. But you have to feel comfortable with this defense and what they're going to be able to do in 2026. So there it is. That's my thoughts. Y'all wanted me to do a video on it. That's me reacting. That's me learning this defense as well, and getting more familiar with some of the names on there. But watch out. Auburn could be a sleeper this year in 2026. But make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hype up the video. I will see you guys in the next one. And please make sure to tell a friend, man, and send it out, man, and join and become a member today and help support the channel. All right. Much love to you guys. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.